Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen of the YouTubeverse? I am here with a bit of a different episode today. Nothing too long either, but there's this thing about a sandwich and people who are being respectful YouTubers against being non-respectful YouTubers. As someone who is YouTubing more myself, and I'm probably going to be taking this out in public in some way, in some form in the future. I already doing little bits and pieces with the pet store stuff that you see, but again, it's only the animals and everything, and a few seconds at a time. So the UA Eats dude, I believe his name is, they're respectful and there's back and forth and stuff. And that was respectful because we're going to talk about some of the stuff in that video outside of the argument, because we're not talking about that. We're not focusing on the bad part of it. And also for the individual, thankfully, he never showed the face, never said the name. So speak not the name, and the darkness will not pass on. So, but we're going to talk about why that's super awesome, and that's the trend that'd be super cool to see, rather than some of these other names that do stuff like pepper spraying people in the face, drawing guns, acting fools, being absolutely belligerent to race and culture. It's quite the opposite of the change that it's starting to happen, where we're starting to see where people in public are standing up for good. And what this dude did in his video when he was recording, he was speaking normal tone like this, just how I am, not yelling, not acting the fool. He actually is doing the same thing I'm doing, where he has his camera against the wall. Now, this is a wall in my room. This is my personal space, so obviously I can do whatever. But I will say the window right there next to me is open because my cat likes cat television, and also it's such a beautiful day, so I'm letting the good air in. And I'm sure people can hear me if I wanted to be really loud. And I know I live in a suburban neighborhood right now, so I'm sure people can hear me. So, again, I'm being respectful, kind, and I also, with my contents, like this guy did, he didn't use any cursing or anything until he was being threatened and the guy was acting the fool. I don't agree with the wordy dirds. You can drop an F bomb, but you can also just instead call someone a brain dead Neanderthal or something like that. There's clever ways that are much more efficient. That was the one thing on what I said the UA Eats dude I didn't like about. But honestly, he was also getting upset because he was being ultimately bullied. We're adults, we don't run into bullying very often. And it's getting to the point now where people who do make career off of recording and YouTube stuff that are respectful and kind are starting to get their light in the shining and get shining in the light again, time in the light, but whatever. They're showing themselves. They're shining out there, kind of a thing, and that is awesome. And I would love to be part of the wave of people who kind of push that kind of vibe, that kind of talent, or not talent, well, talented at trying to be good, I guess. No, not talent, sorry. Um, Kind of change and stuff. I don't know. I don't know why I said that. That's weird. When you got brain farts and stuff, and you hear me talking on this stuff all the time, and it's very rare where I will stutter and mess up words a bit. But no, I guess talent, because being on screen, maybe I did mean that in a weird way. Because being on screen and talking publicly and putting yourself out there is a little rough, and that's a bit of a talent to be able to do so, and confidently, I guess. I don't know. I've done a lot of public speaking even as a little kid, so I've gotten used to that. I remember I used to be so scared to speak with people. I was People would like put their hand on my shoulder, tell me it's okay, and then you're like, dude, I can feel your heartbeat through your shoulder. It was crazy. But nowadays, man, especially as I get older, I'm starting to realize be you and love what you do and don't care what people say. But if you're doing wrong and you're hurting people and you're being a menace, you need to step down and rethink what you're doing, because you're following the wrong side of the coin there, my friends. There's good stuff coming. Right now, the world is in a lot of turmoil. There's wars, there's nasty, there's prejudice, hate kind of being promoted more than it should be. I don't think, as far as like that last word I said, is as strong as we might think. It just shouts louder than people who are trying to promote the opposite of that. What we really need to focus on is helping one another. There's a lot of hurt people out there. There's a lot of people who are hurting, not just financially, that was starting to say at first, but mentally, physically. A lot of us are being pushed. Probably more than we wanted to or thought we should be, with inflation and everything, and not all of us having the monies to catch up to it. And to follow your passion, it's taking a pay cut. A lot of the times when you trying to do right for yourself, what winds up happening is you almost are an intern of sorts, or like resetting your whole life to do that new thing. And if you hadn't done it, if you hadn't done it younger, it's going to be tough when older, but it's not impossible. Nah, there ain't no way. I heard a story of a lady in her 50s that gone through college to be a lawyer and work as a lawyer probably until the day she died, you know? I don't know the exact name. A teacher was telling me about this when I was doing college for a bit. I did more of a public college kind of thing. I did no universities or anything like that, but I went through high school, barely passed that, tried college. I don't know. School is weird for me, you know? I'm not an unintelligent individual. It's just there's a lot of story behind that and the curriculum and things that I chose. I mean, I wanted to be a music teacher originally, and that, as we can see, compared to 2007 when I was in college to now, what it's kind of become and what it's done. So, you know, my things didn't work the way I thought, but animals and stuff, I found that I can have a job in that there is a career in that. And so many people say I know so much about it without, like, I've studied things since a young kid, and some of the stuff I already knew. Some people are like, how do you know that? It's like, well, it was in a book I read in the library when I was 10 years old. In fact, I still have some of those books with me today, ones that were bought, not borrowed and never given back. I always gave everything back to the library. I have no rented things still in my possession. Man, I'm getting off track here, though. I guess the long story short is, let's push this trend of good vibe content. Let's stop making this shock culture thing. Let's stop trying to do pranks. At this point, it's just like that thing with the baby reveal thing where it started off very tame and then went insane. Like a lot of this stuff, like Jackass, and you had Punk'd and stuff, and even before then, Candid Camera. That stuff was public and filmed and had a sort of team. And even in some cases with those shows, they had to deal with police and stuff too. So even back then, people who were taking that inspiration off that content, that wasn't even as horrible as some of the stuff you see today. Like you got people dumping stuff and doing terrible things to people for prank. And my fingers crack every time I do that. Sorry, I have crackly, achy hands and fingers. Work hard, man. But yeah, for pranks, man, just literally breaking the law. People are trying to say they're just pranking, and that's wild to me. So let's stop that prank culture, because at this point, if you're trying to one up what they did in the past, you're breaking the law. The rules don't act around you. Let's be good YouTubers. Let's be good inspiration. Let us have that whole culture of, what's it called? Influencers. Influence some good stuff for once, you know? That's all I just be saying. With that, y'all have a good one. Keep that love in mind. Thank goodness. My goodness, I'm so surprised. I have amazing subscribers. All of y'all are so sweet, so kind, so loving. You know, birds of a feather. That's what they be saying, you know? And the fact that y'all be here, you're listening to my stank, and listening to all the stuff I say, thank you, thank you, thank you. I do hope that this kind of vibe passes on, and I hope more and more people kind of push this kind of content, you know? We need good, especially in the time where it feels like good's not really winning sometimes, but trust me, it is. It's just, it's not as loud. With that, thank you. You all are awesome. Keep pushing to that next day. Peace out.